Okay. First of all, let me just say, welcome everybody. Thanks for stopping by. We're trying a new internet service, so we'll see how this works out. And what we're talking about today is I think sometimes a lot of people, they like to focus too much on the negative aspects of government and politicians, and who wouldn't, because there's just so much negativity out there. But I think there's a lot of things that are positive and things we should take note of. And what I'm talking about is there was another conference by Governor Ron DeSantis from Florida. And we had covered, this was one of his press conferences that he did like a couple of weeks ago, where he talked about just how evil CBDCs are. And I thought it would just be one thing, like a one and done type of thing. But then just a couple of days ago, he was at the Pennsylvania Leadership Conference. And he talks about the same thing. And what I like about these things is that when people come out, especially politicians in high-ranking positions, they come out and they talk about the evils of CBDCs. It's not like this is something that is underground and something that is like tinfoil hat, conspiracy theory type of craziness. It kind of gives it a little bit of a legitimacy. And what he talks about here, it's only 50 seconds, so just take a listen real quick. Let me make sure you can hear the audio correctly with this one. Take a listen here.
And one of the things we're going to ban in Florida this year is the idea of a central bank digital currency that they're trying to do. This is something where they want the Fed to control a digital dollar. And guess what will happen? They're going to try to impose an ESG agenda through that. You go and use too much gas, they're going to stop it. They're not going to honor the transaction because you've already bought more than what they think. You want to go buy a rifle, they're going to say, no, you have too many of those, you can't do it. So it's ceding the power of our financial freedom to a central bank, which does not have our interests at heart. So I think all states need to band together, need to say we're not doing this central bank digital currency, and we're going to let you be in charge of your own finances.
I gotta tell you, I like that, being in charge of your own finances. It makes a lot of sense. I think it's one of the big reasons why we got into crypto, Bitcoin, digital assets. So when he talks about these things and he says, you know what, with these CBDCs, we have to get rid of them. And of course, we're not going to move forward. I understand that a governor of just one state can't stop a tidal wave of CBDCs coming in. Just doesn't work like that. If the government wants to come out here and say, you know what, we're going to do CBDCs, well, tough luck, Florida, and every other governor that comes behind him or in front of him and says, we don't want that. However, I think it's a step in the right direction. And then also, I know people were a little bit concerned about the FedNow coming out in July, which is the ability for the Fed to settle transactions and deliver monetary units directly from the Fed itself. And we actually covered this in a video. I linked in the description as well. And we talked about it and we said, the FedNow is not a CBDC. Let me say that again. The FedNow is not a CBDC. Of course, people were disagreeing and like, no, it actually is. No, it's not. And then some people would say, well, it's on the rails of a CBDC. Yes, potentially it is. But this is actually from Caitlin Long. And Caitlin is the founder, CEO of Custodial Bank. She has been on Wall Street for 22 years and a pretty big proponent of Bitcoin. She goes, look, newsflash, FedNow is not a CBDC. It's a big risk for July. And she said there's probably more problems brewing, but this is not a CBDC. And even the Fed had to come out and said, look, is the FedNow replacing cash? Is it a central bank digital currency? No, it's not related to digital currency. FedNow is a payment service the Federal Reserve is making available for banks and credit unions to transfer funds. So that sounds great, right? Sounds fantastic. Great. I have a sigh of relief. Well, not too fast. Because even the FedNow isn't a CBDC, and we talked about how it is, and Ron DeSantis wants to ban CBDCs. Here's the thing. Here's the reality. The CBDCs are going to come. They're probably going to make their way onto it. But again, like I've said many a times, if they come out with a CBDC and they don't, and actually gets through FedNow and it brings it out, how long before you think that people who are like, oh, great, I have no idea about other aspects that I can use a crypto or digital asset or get out of these rails before they start shutting things down? Again, I believe it all takes place And it just takes a little bit of time for them to screw it up to where they start shutting off accounts to where people are like, why do I have this digital currency? And maybe there's something else that I can do. Me personally, I don't mind when it rolls out. If it actually does roll out, I think it is. I think it'll just be a disaster waiting to happen, but I could be wrong. Let me just think about that in the comments section. Then also to follow up on a little bit of positivity as far as politicians in Congress, because they're not all against us. This was an interview with Laura Shin from Unchained podcast, and she interviewed Tom Emmer. I know Tom was a congressman. I didn't know he was the House Majority Whip, and he said, "Look, Gary Gensler," and he's a huge proponent of Bitcoin as well. He said, "Look, Gary Gensler was a bad faith regulator. He's been really positive for Bitcoin, but here's what he says. He goes, this guy in my mind is a bad faith regulator. He's been blindly spraying the crypto community with enforcement actions while completely missing the truly bad actors." And if you need a little bit of a graphical representation of what Gary has done so far, as far as like protecting investors, it's all summed up in this meme that I made. That I was actually helped out. But this is what Gary's done so far. He has protected you against staking with Kraken. So congratulations. And, Tom comes out here and says, you know what? I just don't think he's doing a great job. This is what he's protect you, and this is what hasn't. So on these parts, we can say, well, great. There's all other politicians that are actually positive for crypto. Also, what about government itself? Well, there was a bill from Arkansas, which passes a right to mine Bitcoin bill. Arkansas. And here's what we got. U.S. State of Arkansas has passed a bill that aims to protect the local right to mine crypto. And that's all crypto, not just Bitcoin, any kind of proof of work. Records indicated the bill was passed by the House and Senate on April 6th. It was enrolled and sent to the governor's office, where it requires approval on April 7th, which it will get. Arkansas Data Center Act of 2023 aims to prevent local governments from imposing certain restrictions on crypto mining activities. So again, we can talk about the negative aspect about how government's working against us, but remember, I know this is very naive to say, but it is true. The government does work for us, not the other way around. And then one more thing to consider, which is even if the government comes at us and comes at the crypto and digital asset space and tries to shut things down, and they want to do legal actions and use all their might, there's still options for us. We're not in a communist society yet. And this gives me hope. So Coinbase asks for about $500,000 to cover the fees cost from the insider trading case. You don't remember, about a year ago or so, I can't remember when it was exactly, but the SEC brought a case against two brothers who were inside trading at Coinbase. And Coinbase helped out the SEC because they were trying to do the good work. And they go, hey, now that we did all that, and now that we're at each other's throats now, why don't you pay us for all the work that we did? So in a letter dated April 3rd, a lawyer representing Coinbase asked for restitution to cover the costs it said occurred during the investigations by the SEC. $400,000 would cover 5 grand jury subpoenas served on Coinbase with 65 total requests, and $60,000 in lost wages for employees. So again, remember, just because the government comes at you doesn't mean that you're going to lose. I will remind you that Mark Cuban beat the SEC for insider trading. That case was years ago, and beat him pretty handily. So it's not like just because the government comes after you, you're going to lose automatically. So these types of things give me hope. And then also, speaking of legal community accepts XRP verdict by May 6th. Lawyer admits SEC has one valid claim. So every time I hear anything about the XRP verdict or the Ripple, it should be really Ripple verdict, because the SEC is suing them, I always think to myself, yeah, right. When that happens, we'll also get a spot Bitcoin ETF to come right along with it. Translation, that's sarcasm. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But I found this interesting as to the logic. It's not really warped, but it does make sense. And Bill Morgan, regulator, actually, Bill Morgan. Excuse me. Bill Morgan's not a regulator. He's a pro XRP lawyer. Excuse me. And he states the SEC may be right about investors buying XRP, with the exception of Ripple winning the ongoing case against the SEC. And what he said is this: the regulators' claims Regulators claim acknowledges investors may be banking on Ripple's legal endeavors to reap gains rather than the company's business efforts. Because this all comes down to the Howey test. If you have an expectation of profit based on the work of others, that could potentially constitute a security. I'm not a security lawyer, surprise. But I found this interesting. They said, well, it's not that the XRP army is waiting for the endeavors of the business and what they do with Ripple. What they're saying is because that there was a lawsuit brought against Ripple that the XRP holders are stating that they're actually waiting for revenue to come because of the efforts of this lawsuit if it turns out to be positive. So it's like the SEC can come at you and go, okay, we're going to sue you. And then you say, okay, well, we're not a security, but because of our efforts that we put forth for our lawyers and our time and our money, that will raise the price of XRP if we win, which is true. So he states paradoxically, the SEC may be correct about investors relying on Ripple's efforts, but not because of Ripple's business efforts or sales of XRP, but its legal efforts defeating the SEC's lawsuit should it be successful, which, let's be honest, between us, if Ripple wins this case, I'm pretty sure XRP is going to go up. And I'm pretty sure, well, I'm just guessing, I don't know, but I'm guessing that a lot of people have probably picked up XRP because of the fact that they feel that they're going to win this case. And that, of course, is one of the Howey prongs. And that's just not coming from me. That's a pro XRP lawyer. So sound off in the comment section. We'll go from there. And lastly, just to finish up, I know there's been a lot of talk about Ethereum probably will drop a hefty amount because of the upcoming Shanghai upgrade. And just so you know, it's April 7th today? April 8th. So this actually happens roughly on April 12th. And this is a report which says staked Ethereum withdrawals could take weeks after the Shanghai upgrade. So there's just one more piece of the puzzle. I'm not going to read it, but it just pretty much goes down to it's going to take a long time. If people want to unstake and sell out, it would take a little bit of time. I personally don't think it's going to drop too much because most of the people who were staking their Ethereum at the point years ago, they're going to be underwater. So what's the point of selling right now? I mean, if you want to do that, be my guest, but I don't see the whole point to it. So all these things that we talk about, I see some pretty positive parts to it. And also, if we take a look over here in the cryptoverse, see just how far we're undervalued as far as the market itself. The fair market value is still almost $2 trillion. $2 trillion. And we're at 1.1 trillion. Upper band is 15 trillion. I don't think we're going to hit that. But again, I think we're still pretty undervalued. The current risk as far as Bitcoin goes, still 0.4, which is pretty low. Ethereum, 0.5, a little bit higher. What about ADA? It's got to be low. Yeah, 0.2. BNB, much 0.4. Solana, it's got to be low. Yeah, 0.2 and so forth. And also, if we take a look at indicator summary, as far as risk, which takes a look at price metrics, on-chain, and social metrics, we're still at a pretty low point, which doesn't mean anything. We could fall to the floor tomorrow. But I got to tell you, right now, it seems like it's a pretty undervalued. But that doesn't mean it can't go lower, just what the metrics say. And then lastly, I will just say this. For all the things that we're trying to do, if you're a Bitcoin investor or Shiba Inu investor or, I don't know, take your picks investor, you're going to pick the wrong one at some point. No investor that I know of personally has a 100% track record, not even Warren Buffett. So just be aware of that. And the things that you do your own research on, you're still going to get kind of screwed over. And there's a lot of people out there that are going to do those things. And here's a great story. This is just a minute. I want to share it with you. This is a tech CEO for a company called Frank. And if we always talk about do your own research, do due diligence and all that great stuff, right? Well, this 31-year-old who was named Forbes 40, fantastic 40 under 40, whatever it's called, she scammed JP Morgan out of $175 million. So if you think that those guys didn't do a ton of due diligence before she ripped them off, I think I got a bridge to sell you. But just take a listen to this. Let me stop my screen again just to make sure that you can actually hear this. About a minute. Just take a listen.
This morning, Charlie Javice, founder of the financial and nonprofit Frank, could be facing up to 100 years in prison, accused of defrauding J.P. Morgan Chase out of millions.
Frank kind of represented that as a name because it just meant honest.
Federal investigators allege Frank was a fraud. They say 31-year-old Javice, who made the prestigious Forbes magazine 30 under 30 list, didn't scam students, but scammed the bank by falsely and dramatically inflating the number of customers of her company, claiming 4.25 million customers or users when the real number was under 300,000.
So there you go. Look, if JP Morgan can't get it right, and all the people that get screwed over can't get it right, there's going to come a point where something's going to happen where it's just not going to go your way. So I'm just here to tell you that it happens to the best of us. Do the best to the best of your abilities. Do your own research and move forward. And that's what I got for you. Don't beat yourself up too much. And lastly, before we get a little chat, is if you haven't signed up for Dan Teaches Crypto, it's 100% free. And I've been hinting at some things that we're going to be rolling out. So just if you're a member of my free website, check your email inbox today or tomorrow. And that's it. So look, that's it for today. So if you like today's video, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. Everything I talk about is time sensitive. And again, if you are an investor in Bitcoin, crypto digital assets, this is not a set it and forget it type of industry. I think you really got to be on top of things, especially moving forward into 2024, 2025, and everything that comes in between. So it might behoove you to subscribe. But that's it. Thanks so much for stopping by. I appreciate it. Now